The night was cold, and the wind outside howled like a wounded beast. Inside his small wooden house, the human soldier sat near the fire. His body was tired, his hands rough from years of work, and his heart was even more tired from years of war. He thought the night would be silent. He thought he could close his eyes and forget the world for a few hours. But then came the knock. It was not a gentle knock. It was not the sound of a neighbor passing by. It was heavy, desperate, and shaking. He froze. In a land where trust was rare and dangers walked in the dark, no one knocked at midnight unless trouble followed them. The soldier stood, his heart beating louder than the storm. He reached for the old knife resting on the table and walked slowly to the door. His breath made small clouds in the cold air as he whispered to himself, "Who could it be at this hour?" Another knock came, louder this time, and then a voice. Soft, weak, trembling. "Please, open. My children need help." He opened the door a little, just enough to see. There she stood, an alien woman, her skin pale under the rain, her long hair stuck to her face. In her arms clung two small children, shaking from the cold. Her clothes were torn, wet, and clinging to her thin body. Her eyes, wide, glowing faintly in the dark, were filled with fear and shame. "Please," she whispered again. "My children need a father. I will warm your bed. Do not turn us away." The soldier gripped the doorframe tightly. The words felt heavy, shocking, almost unreal. He had seen alien women before, but never like this. Never begging at his door, offering herself in such a way. "Why here?" he asked, his voice low, cautious. "Because." Her voice broke. She looked down at the children, both of them with hollow eyes and empty stomachs. "Because no one else will. They say I am cursed. They say my children should not live. But you are human. And humans—" She stopped, her lips trembling. "Humans are different. Please." The children's small hands clung tighter to her legs. One of them looked up at the soldier, eyes wide, silently asking for mercy. The soldier's mind raced. He had lived alone for years. He had sworn to avoid others, to keep his distance from alien wars, alien politics, alien pain. He did not want this. He did not want to feel his heart pulled by pity. And yet, here it was. Behind her the storm raged harder. Thunder cracked, lightning split the sky. She was shaking, her children barely able to stand. If he closed the door now, they might not survive the night. But if he let them in, he did not know what dangers would follow. "What is your name?" he asked at last. Her lips parted, her voice barely rising above the storm. "Lyra. And the children?" She looked down at them. "Mira and Kio." The soldier's eyes softened for just a moment. Then he shook his head, trying to stay firm. "I cannot promise anything. I cannot give what you ask." Her eyes filled with tears, but she did not move away. "I am not asking for gold, or power, or even love. I only ask for a place where my children can breathe. If I must pay with myself, then so be it." The soldier's grip on the knife loosened. He looked once more at the children. Their small faces were pale, their bodies trembling. The human sighed, heavy and long, as if the weight of the world pressed on him again. Finally, he pulled the door open wider. "Come inside. But this is not forever. Do you understand?" Lyra lowered her head, relief washing over her face. "Yes, thank you." She stepped inside, her children following, dripping water on the floor. The firelight touched their faces, soft and fragile, shadows dancing on the wall. The soldier closed the door behind them, knowing his quiet life had just ended. He did not know it yet, but this knock at midnight would change everything. The fire burned low, casting a warm glow inside the small wooden house. The human soldier placed a rough blanket over the two children. They were already half asleep, their thin bodies curling together like frightened animals. Their small breaths filled the silence, steady but weak, The alien widow. Lyra sat by the fire, her wet clothes steaming slightly in the heat. Her long fingers twisted nervously in her lap, and her glowing eyes never looked directly at the soldier. She seemed grateful, yet also afraid. The soldier leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, studying her. His mind was restless. He had let them in, yes, but questions burned inside him like sparks refusing to die. Who was this woman really? Why had she chosen his door out of all others? And what danger might come with her? At last he spoke. "Tell me, why do they say you are cursed?" The question made her flinch. For a moment, her lips trembled, but no sound came. She looked at the fire instead of him, as if the flames could hide her shame. "They do not want to know the truth," she whispered. "It is easier for them to hate me than to face their fear." The soldier frowned. "Fear of what?" Her eyes lifted, and for the first time, he saw the sharp pain in them. "Fear of my children." He looked at the two small figures sleeping on the floor. They looked innocent. Too innocent to carry any threat. "They are only children." "They are not only children," Lyra said softly, her voice shaking. "Their father's blood runs through them. He was a soldier, a warrior of my people. He disobeyed the council. He stood against them. For that, they hunted him, killed him, and declared that his bloodline must end." The soldier's brows tightened. "So they want your children dead because of him?" "Yes." Her hands clenched tightly, her long nails digging into her palms. "They say his spirit still lives in them. That they will rise against the council one day. That they will bring rebellion." Her voice dropped lower, almost breaking. "I do not know if it is true. But I know they are my children. I cannot let them die for sins they did not choose." The soldier looked again at the children, sleeping quietly in the fire's glow. He thought of his own past of soldiers falling beside him, of orders that made no sense, of children left crying in burned villages. He understood too well the cruelty of councils and leaders. "You came here because you think humans will protect you," he said. She nodded slowly. "Your people are different. They say humans fight for family, not just for orders. I thought maybe you would understand." The soldier let out a bitter laugh, low and rough. "Understand? I understand too much. That is why I chose to live alone. No wars, no families, no promises." Her eyes softened, almost pleading. "Yet here we are. And you opened the door." The soldier fell silent. He could not deny it. Outside, the storm still raged. The wind pressed against the walls, rattling them, but inside the house there was a fragile calm. The widow leaned closer to the fire, her shadow stretching long across the floor. "There is something else you should know," she said suddenly. Voice made him straighten. "What is it?" Lyra hesitated, her hands tightening again in her lap. "The men who killed my husband. They will come for me too. They will come for the children. They know we live. They will not rest until we are gone." The soldier's jaw tightened. "And you brought them to my door?" "I brought them to the only door that had a chance of staying shut," she answered quickly, desperation in her voice. "I am sorry, but I had no choice." For a long moment, silence filled the room. The soldier stared at the fire, his thoughts heavy. He had survived battles, ambushes, betrayals. But this was different. This was not his war. Yet somehow he was already part of it. The widow looked at him, her glowing eyes shimmering in the firelight. "You can still send us away if you wish," she said softly. "But if you do, the storm outside will not kill us. My people will." The soldier leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees, his face hidden in shadow. His heart beat harder than he wanted to admit. He had opened the door once. Could he close it now? The storm ended by morning. The sky was gray, heavy clouds hanging low above the valley. The soldier opened his door and stepped outside, the cold air sharp in his lungs. The village below his hill was already awake, smoke rising from chimneys, voices carrying across the damp fields. He thought he could slip down quietly for food and return before anyone asked questions. But life had other plans. When he walked into the village square, heads turned. People noticed the tired look in his eyes, the marks of a restless night. More than that, they noticed the strange figures who had followed him at a distance, Lyra and her children. Her hood was pulled low, but it did not hide her pale alien skin or the faint glow of her eyes. The children clung to her arms, trying to hide from the stares. Their thin shoes sank into the mud as whispers began to rise. "That's her, widow, the cursed one." The words were soft but sharp, like knives cutting the air. The soldier heard them and felt his jaw tighten. An old woman at the well shook her head. "Why is she with the human?" A farmer spat into the dirt. "She is using him. She will sell herself to anyone who keeps her alive." Another voice muttered, "Her children carry rebellion in their blood. If he shelters them, trouble will come to all of us." The soldier bought bread, dried meat, and a sack of grain, but his hands were not steady. Every word, every look was like a shadow pressing closer. He had lived among these people for years, keeping to himself, never asking for anything. Now in one night, everything had changed. Lyra stood silently at the edge of the square, her shoulders tense. She kept her eyes on the ground, but her children's small faces peeked out from behind her cloak. Mira, the older one, clutched a piece of cloth and whispered, "Why are they staring, Mother?" "Because they are afraid," Lyra whispered back. "Do not answer them. Stay close." But fear soon turned cruel. A group of boys, older than her children, but still young enough to think themselves untouchable, picked up stones from the ground. They tossed them in their hands, grinning. One of them shouted, "Cursed blood! Go back to the graves where you belong." A stone flew, striking the dirt near Kao's feet. He flinched, his small hands grabbing his sister. Another stone followed, hitting his shoulder. He whimpered, tears forming in his wide eyes. Lyra moved quickly, pulling her children behind her. "Stop!" she cried, her voice trembling. "They are only children." The boys only laughed. Another stone flew, this one aiming higher. But it never reached its mark. The soldier's hand shot out, catching it in the air. His glare burned into the boys, his stance firm and dangerous. "Enough," he said, his voice like a growl. The square went silent. Every villager froze, watching as the human soldier stood in the middle of them, protecting the alien widow and her children. His presence was heavy, his reputation too well known. He was not a man to cross. He dropped the stone to the ground and stepped closer. "If you ever throw another, you throw it at me. Do you want to try?" The boys shrank back, their courage dissolving. One muttered something under his breath, then they scattered, vanishing into the alleys. The soldier turned, looking at the crowd. Their whispers had stopped, but their eyes still judged. Fear mixed with suspicion, and something else, resentment. Without another word, he placed his hand on Lyra's shoulder, guiding her and the children out of the square. She did not resist. Her head was low, but he felt the tremble in her body. When they reached the edge of the village, she finally spoke, her voice soft. "You did not have to defend us. Now they will think you chose our side." The soldier looked at her, his face unreadable. "Maybe I did." Her breath caught, but she said nothing more. The children clung tighter to her cloak, their eyes shining with something new, not just fear, but hope. Behind them, in the village, the whispers rose again. Only this time, they carried a different weight. The human had declared, without words, that he stood with the outcast widow. And in that moment, the line between him and the rest of the village was drawn. He did not know how far it would go. But he knew one thing for certain. There was no turning back now. The days after the village incident were uneasy. The soldier kept his distance from the townsfolk, but he could feel their stares whenever he walked down the path. They no longer looked at him with quiet respect. Now they looked at him with suspicion, as if he had invited trouble into their lives. Inside his house, things were different. The fire burned brighter, the air felt warmer. Lyra cleaned the small rooms, repaired torn blankets, and cooked with what little she had. The children laughed sometimes now, though their laughter was soft, as if they were afraid it might be taken away. The soldier told himself it was temporary, just until the danger passed. But the house no longer felt empty, and part of him did not hate it. That fragile peace ended one evening. The soldier was sharpening his old knife when a sharp knock rattled the door. Not the weak knock of a beggar, not the gentle knock of a neighbor. This was a command, strong, demanding. He rose slowly, his muscles tense. Lyra froze where she stood, her face draining of color. The children pressed against her legs, sensing something was wrong. The soldier opened the door halfway, and 3 figures stood outside. Tall, armored, cloaks dripping with rain. Their skin carried the same faint glow as Lyra's, but their eyes were hard, cruel. They smelled of iron and smoke. Soldiers of her people, thought the tallest stepped forward, his voice low but sharp. "We have tracked a widow and her spawn. They fled justice. We know they are here." His gaze slid past the soldier's shoulder, toward the dim light inside. "Move aside, human. This does not concern you." The soldier's grip on the door tightened. "If it does not concern me, then why knock on my door?" The alien soldier's lips curled. "Because the cursed woman thinks she can hide behind you. We only need her and the children. Step away, and no harm will come to you." Behind him, Lyra whispered, "No." Her voice cracked with fear. The children buried their faces against her cloak. The soldier looked at them, then back at the armored men. He felt the weight of the choice pressing on him. He could hand them over, and the problem would end. His life would return to silence. But when he looked at the trembling children, something deep inside him refused. "They are under my roof," he said slowly. "And under my roof, no one takes anything without my word." The air grew colder. The alien soldier's hand rested on the hilt of his blade. "Do not test us, human. You cannot fight 3 of us." The human's hand brushed against the old knife at his belt. His voice was calm, steady. "Then you will see what one human can do." For a moment, no one moved. Rain pattered on the roof, dripping down the cloaks of the strangers. The fire crackled behind him. Then the leader gave a short, mocking laugh. "Very well. Keep your pets. But know this, we will return. And when we do, even your walls will not protect you." He turned sharply, his cloak whipping behind him. The other 2 followed, their heavy steps sinking into the wet earth. As they vanished into the night, the soldier closed the door firmly, sliding the wooden bar across. Inside, silence hung heavy. Lyra was pale, her hands shaking as she clutched the children. "They will not stop," she whispered. "They will gather more. They will come again." The soldier looked at her, his expression hard but calm. "Then we will be ready." Her eyes widened at his words, and for the first time, she seemed to see him not as just a man giving shelter, but as something more. A shield. A wall between her children and the world that wanted them gone. The children looked at him too, their small eyes filled with fragile trust. The soldier knew his life of silence was over. The moment he stood in that doorway, he had chosen a side. And now there would be no easy path forward. Outside, the rain washed over the earth. Somewhere in the dark, voices of the armored men carried on the wind, promising they would return. The human soldier sat back down by the fire, his knife still in hand, the blade gleaming in the flickering light. He whispered to himself, so quiet no one else could hear, "They think I am alone. Let them come and see." Morning came heavy with silence, but the village was far from calm. Rumors had already spread like wildfire. By the time the soldier stepped down the hill to fetch water, whispers followed him through every street. Children stared wide-eyed from behind their mothers' skirts. Old men shook their heads. Some voices were low with fear, others sharp with anger. They say he fought 3 of them at his door. No, he did not fight, he protected her. Protected them. He has chosen her over us. You will see. Trouble will come, and it will fall on us all. The soldier ignored their stares, filling his bucket at the well. But the weight of their eyes pressed hard against his back. He had survived battlefields, yet this felt different. Enemies in war were clear. Enemies in a village were the faces of neighbors back at the house. Lyra sat near the window, her children curled close to her. Their small hands played with scraps of cloth, but their eyes were not bright. They had heard the whispers too. The walls were thin. The world outside was loud. When the soldier placed the bucket down, Mira, the older child, looked at him and asked softly, "Will they come again?" "Yes," he answered honestly. "But we will be ready." Kio clung tighter to his mother. "Will they hurt us?" Before the soldier could reply, Lyra pulled the boy into her arms. Her voice was firm, though her hands shook. "Not while he stands here." The soldier felt the weight of her words. He had not promised them safety, yet she spoke as if his presence was already a shield. That afternoon, more voices rose in the village square. Farmers left their fields, merchants abandoned their stalls. People gathered, talking loudly, their words carried by the wind. She should be sent away. Her kind brings soldiers and war. If the human protects her, then he is against us. One man, tall and broad-shouldered, struck his staff against the ground. "I have fought beside that human before," he declared. "He is not weak. But if he stands with the cursed woman, then he puts us all at risk. We must decide her life or our peace." The soldier watched from the edge of the crowd, his jaw tight. He saw fear in their eyes, but also hunger for someone to blame. It was easier to hate the widow than to prepare for the storm coming their way. Lyra was not with him. He had told her to stay inside, and she obeyed, though he knew her heart burned with shame. The children had cried when he left, clinging to his arms, begging him not to go. But he needed to hear what the villagers planned. The voices grew sharper. One woman spat. She offered herself to him. "That is the only reason she is still alive. Shameful. Cursed blood and cursed flesh." The words stung more than arrows. The soldier stepped forward at last, his voice carrying across the square. "Enough." The crowd fell silent. All eyes turned to him. "You fear her," he said, his tone steady, his face unreadable. "You fear her children. But tell me, what have they done to you? What harm has come from them?" No one answered. Only murmurs. "They are hunted," he continued. "Not by us, but by those who killed her husband. Do you think if we cast her out, the soldiers will leave us in peace? No, they will come anyway. And when they do, they will not stop at her door. They will come for all of you." The words settled heavy on the square. Some faces shifted with doubt. Others hardened with anger. The tall man with the staff shook his head. "You ask us to risk everything for a widow and her cursed children. Why should we?" The soldier's eyes narrowed. He stepped closer, his presence strong. "Because one day it may be your child at the door, your blood hunted. And if we turn away now, we teach the world that we do not protect our own." For a long moment, silence hung thick. Some lowered their eyes. Others clenched their fists. The crowd did not cheer, but they did not attack either. The storm had not broken, but it was gathering. That night, back in his house, the soldier told Lyra what he had seen. She listened quietly, her eyes shining with both fear and gratitude. "You are alone against many," she whispered. He shook his head. "Not alone. Not anymore." The fire crackled, shadows dancing across the walls. Outside, the village muttered in the dark. And beyond them, in the forest, enemies prepared their return. The storm of rumors was only the beginning. Asterisk. The soldier had learned to sleep lightly after years of war. Even in peace, his ears stayed sharp, his body always ready. That night was no different. He lay on the floor near the fire, the crackling embers fading, when a faint sound reached him. A twig snapping. A shadow moving. Not the wind. Something else. His eyes opened. The room was dark, the soft breaths of Lyra and her children filling the silence. They slept close together on the blanket, their faces peaceful for the first time in many nights. He rose quietly, knife in hand, and stepped toward the window. Outside, the moonlight cast silver across the yard. At first, nothing moved. But then, in the corner of his eye, he saw a figure slipping between the trees. Then another. Then more. Shadows creeping closer. The soldier's grip tightened on his knife. He moved back and touched Lyra's shoulder. She woke instantly, her glowing eyes widening when she saw his face. "They are here," he whispered, her breath caught. She clutched her children close, her body trembling. "What do we do?" The soldier scanned the room. His walls were strong, but not enough to hold against a real attack. "Stay quiet. Stay low." He moved to the door, every muscle tense, ready for the fight that was coming. The first knock came, slow and heavy. Not a plea this time, but a warning. A command. Then a voice rang out, cold and sharp. "Human, open the door. You had your chance to hand them over. Do it now, and you may live." The children whimpered, pressing their faces into Lyra's cloak. She held them tighter, whispering to calm them. The soldier said nothing. The voice outside grew harder. "We are many. You cannot stand alone." The soldier finally spoke, his voice steady. "Then step inside and see." For a long moment, silence. Then came the crash. The door shuddered under a heavy blow. Another. The wooden bar creaked. The children cried out softly, fear thick in their voices. The soldier's heart pounded, but his hands were steady. He had fought worse than this. He had survived worse. He positioned himself by the door, knife gleaming in the faint firelight. When the bar finally splintered, the door burst open, and the first soldier stepped inside. His eyes glowed with cruel light, his blade raised. But before he could strike, the human's knife flashed. Steel met flesh. A sharp cry filled the room, and the intruder fell. The second one rushed forward. The soldier pushed the body aside, blocking the way, his arms burning with effort. The fight was fast, brutal. The room filled with the clash of steel, the hiss of breath, the scrape of boots against the floor. Lyra pulled her children into the corner, shielding them with her body. Her eyes never left the man fighting for them. She had seen warriors before, but not like this. His movements were sharp, not graceful but strong. Every strike carrying the weight of survival. Another intruder fell. The others hesitated, shadows in the doorway. The soldier stood tall, blood on his knife, his breath heavy but controlled. "Come," he growled. "Or run." They chose to run. The figures slipped back into the night, their footsteps vanishing into the trees. The yard grew silent again, the only sound the soldier's heavy breathing and the crackle of dying flames. Lyra rushed forward, her hands trembling as she touched his arm. You drove them away." He nodded, wiping his knife on his sleeve. "For now. They will come again." Her children clung to his legs, their eyes wide with fear and awe. The soldier looked down at them, then back at Lyra. For a moment, he felt something shift inside him, something heavy, something dangerous. He was no longer only protecting strangers, he was protecting a family. Outside, the night was quiet, but it was not over. Shadows still waited beyond the trees, gathering strength. The soldier knew this was only the beginning of a greater fight, but as he looked at Lyra and her children, trembling yet alive, he whispered to himself, They will not take you. Not while I breathe. The dawn broke red over the valley, the sky painted like fire. The soldier stood outside his house, staring at the forest below. He knew they were still out there, gathering, waiting. Last night's attack had been only a test. The real storm had not yet come. Inside, Lyra tried to calm her children. Mira clutched her mother's cloak, eyes wide with fear. Ko asked again and again, "Will they come back? Will they take us?" Her voice shook, but she whispered, "No, not while he stands here." The soldier returned, his face hard. "They are coming soon. More of them. Maybe the whole unit." Lyra's hands trembled. "You cannot fight them all." He looked at her, his gaze steady. "I have fought worse. But this time, I am not fighting for a war. I am fighting for you." The words caught her breath. She stared at him, unable to answer, her heart torn between fear and hope. By midday, the sound came, boots against the earth, voices shouting in a harsh alien tongue. From the tree line, they appeared. Armored soldiers, more than a dozen, their blades glinting in the sun. At their front walked the same leader from before, his smile cruel. He raised his voice. "Human, you defy us again. Today you die. And the widow dies. And the cursed children end." The soldier stepped forward, knife in one hand, axe in the other. His voice carried strong. "If you want them, you walk over my body." The enemies laughed, but it was a laughter without joy, sharp and empty. Then they charged. The battle was fast and violent. Steel rang, voices shouted, the ground shook. The soldier fought like a man possessed. Every strike fueled not by orders, not by duty, but by something deeper, something he had buried for years. He blocked one blade, struck with another, his arms burning, blood soaking his shirt. But he did not fall. Inside the house, Lyra prayed silently, holding her children close. She could hear the clash, the cries, the thud of bodies against the earth. Every sound tore at her heart, but she did not move. She knew if she stepped out, the children would be lost. Outside, the soldier cut down one enemy, then another, his breath ragged. Still they came. The leader himself stepped forward, his blade long and sharp, his eyes full of hate. "You think one man can stop us?" He hissed. The soldier raised his knife, his voice steady, though his body shook. "One man is enough." Their blades met, sparks flying, the force of the strike echoing through the valley. The fight was brutal, every move a test of strength and will. The soldier's muscles screamed, but his heart pushed him forward. With a final surge, he drove his blade deep. The leader's cry rang out before he fell to the earth. The others froze. For the first time, fear flickered in their glowing eyes. Their leader was gone. The humans still stood. One by one, they stepped back. Some dropped their weapons. Others fled into the trees, their courage broken. In moments, the yard was silent again, bodies scattered, blood soaking the earth. The soldier stood swaying, his chest heaving, his hands red. He looked up at the sky, the fire of dawn fading to pale gold. He had survived. The door burst open, and Lyra ran to him, her children close behind. She caught him before he could fall, her arms trembling as she held his weight. "You fought for us," she whispered, tears spilling down her face. He looked at her, his voice weak but certain. "I chose you. All of you." The children clung to him, their small hands gripping tightly, their eyes full of trust. In that moment, he was no longer only a soldier. He was no longer only a man living in silence. He was father, protector, and family. The valley was quiet, the storm finally broken. The widow's plea at his door had changed everything. And though the road ahead would be hard, none of them would walk it alone again.